It was a dream, he told himself firmly. I dreamed a giant called Hagrid came to tell me I was going to a school for wizards. When I open my eyes, I'll be at home in my cupboard. There was suddenly a loud tapping noise. And there's Aunt Petunia knocking on the door, Harry thought, his heart sinking. But he still didn't open his eyes. It had been such a good dream. Tap, tap, tap. All right, Harry mumbled. I'm getting up. He sat up, and Hagrid's heavy coat fell off him. The hut was full of sunlight. The storm was The storm was over. Hagrid himself was asleep on the collapsed sofa, and there was an owl rapping its claw on the window, a newspaper held in its beak. Harry scrambled to his feet, so happy he felt as though a large balloon was swelling inside him. He went straight to the window and jerked it open. The owl swooped in and dropped the newspaper on top of Hagrid, who didn't wake up. The owl then fluttered onto the floor and began to attack Hagrid's coat. Don't do that. Harry tried to wave the owl out of the way, but it snapped its beak fiercely at him and carried on savaging the coat. Hagrid, said Harry loudly, there's an owl. Pay him, Hagrid grunted into the sofa. What? He wants payin' for delivering the paper. Look in the pockets. Hagrid's coat seemed to be made of nothing but pockets. Bunches of keys, slug pelts, balls of string, peppermint humbugs, tea bags. Finally, Harry pulled out a handful of strange-looking coins. Give him 5 nuts, said Harry sleepily. Nuts, the little bronze ones. Harry counted out 5 little bronze coins, and the owl held out his leg so Harry could put the money into a small leather pouch tied to it. Then he flew off through the open window. Hagrid yawned loudly, sat up, and stretched. Best be off, Harry. Lots to do today. Gotta get up to London and buy all your stuff for school. Harry was turning over the wizard coins and looking at them. He had just thought of something that made him feel as though the happy balloon inside him had got a puncture. Hagrid? Said Hagrid, who was pulling on his huge boots. I haven't got any money, and you heard Uncle Vernon last night. He won't pay for me to go and learn magic. Don't worry about that, said Hagrid, standing up and scratching his head. Did you think your parents didn't leave you anything? But if their house was destroyed, they didn't keep their gold in the house, boy. Nah. First stop for us is Gringotts, Wizard's Bank. Have a sausage. They're not bad cold. And I wouldn't say no to a bit of your birthday cake, neither. Wizards have banks? Just the one, Gringotts, run by goblins. Harry dropped this bit of sausage he was holding. All right. Does anyone have any questions or any words they want me to go over? Oh, James, do you have a question? No? Okay. Do you want to read? All right. You can start reading on this page. On page 39, starting at goblins.
Goblins? Yeah, so you'd be mad to try and rob it. I'll tell you that. Never mess with goblins. Horror. Gringotts is the safest place in the world for anything you want to keep safe. Except maybe Hogwarts. As a matter of fact, our gods visit Gringotts anyway for Dumbledore Hogwarts business. Hagrid drew himself up proudly. He usually gets me to do important stuff for him. Certain you get things from Gringo. Knows he can trust me. See, got everything? Come on then. Harry followed Hagrid out onto the rock. The sky was quite clear now, and the sea gleamed in the sunlight. The boat Uncle Vernon had hired was still there, with a lot of water in the bottom after the storm. How did you get here? Harry asked, looking around for another boat. Flew, said Hagrid. Flew? Yeah, but we'll go back in this. Not supposed to use magic now. I've got you. They settled down the boat. Harry still staring at Hagrid, trying to imagine him flying. Seems a shame to row, though, said Hagrid, giving Harry another of his sideways looks. If I was to speed up things a bit, would you mind not mention it at Hogwarts? Of course not, said Harry, eager to see more magic. Hagrid pulled out the pink umbrella again, tapped it twice on the side of the boat, and they sped off toward land. Why would you be mad to try and rob Gringotts? Harry asked. Spells, enchantments, said Hagrid, unfolding his newspaper as he spoke. They say there's dragons guarding the high security vault. And then you gotta find your way. Gringotts is hundreds of miles under London. See, deep under the underground. You'd die of hunger trying to get out, even if you didn't manage to get your hands on some.
All right, just let me know when you want to stop reading. Is that enough for you?
Nope.
You want to keep reading? All right, you can keep going.
Harry sat and thought about this while Hagrid read his newspaper, the Daily Prophet. Harry had learned from Uncle Vernon that people like to be left alone while they did this, but it was very difficult. He'd never had so many questions in his life. Ministry of
Magic.
Messing things up as usual, Hagrid muttered, turning the page. There's a ministry of magic? Harry asked before he could stop himself. Of course, said Hagrid. They wanted Dumbledore for Minster.
Of course.
Of course, but he'd never leave Hogwarts. So old Cornelius Fudge got the job. Long bungler,
Angler.
if ever there was one. So he pelts Dumbledore with owls every morning, asking for advice. But what does a Ministry of Magic do? Well, their main job is to keep it from the muggles that there's still witches and wizards up and down the country. Why? Why? Blame me, Harry. Everyone be wanting magic solutions to their problems. Nah, we're best left alone. At this moment, the boat bumped gently into the harbor wall. Hagrid folded up his newspaper, and they clambered up the stone steps onto the street. Passers by stared thought at Hagrid as they walked through the little town to the station. Harry couldn't blame them. Not only was Hagrid twice as tall as anyone else, he kept pointing at perfectly ordinary things like parking meters and saying loudly, "See that, Harry? Thinks this goes dreamer, eh?" Hagrid, said Harry, panting a bit as he ran to keep up. Did you say there are dragons at Gringotts? Well, so they say, said Hagrid. Cricky, I'd like a dragon. You'd like one? Wanted one ever since I was a kid. Here we go. They had reached the station. There was a train to London in 5 minutes' time. Hagrid, who didn't understand muggle money,
Yep.
as he called it, gave the bills to Harry so he could buy their tickets. People stared more than ever on the train. Hagrid took up 2 seats and sat knitting what looked like a canary yellow
Yellow.
circus tent. Still got your letter, Harry? He asked as he counted stitches. Harry took the parchment envelope out of his pocket. Good, said Hagrid. There's a list there of everything you need. Harry unfolded a second piece of paper he hadn't noticed the night before and read Hogwarts School of Witchcraft Wizardry uniform. First year students will require 3 sets of plain work robes, black, one plain pointed hat, black, for day wear, one pair of protective gloves, dragon hide, or similar, one winter cloak, black, silver fastenings. Please note that all pupils' clothes should carry name tags.
James, do you want to let someone else read now? Is that okay?
Okay.
Does anybody else want to read? Oh, Chloe.
Yep. Course books. All students should have a copy of each of the following: The Stranded Book of Spells, Grade 1, by Miranda Goshawk. A History of Magic by Bethesda Bagshot. Magical Theory by Albert Wolfling. A Beginner's Guide to Transformation by Emmerich Switch. 1,000 Magical Herbs and Fungi by Fidea Spore. Magical Drafts and Potions by Anina Jigger. Fantasy Beasts and Where to Find Them by New and The Dark Forces. A Guide to Self-Protection by Clinton Framble. Other Equipment. One cauldron. Peter Stern decides to set glass or crystal telescope set. Brass scales. Student may also bring an owl or a cat or a toad. Parents are reminded that first are not allowed their own broomsticks. Can we buy all this in London? Harry wondered aloud. Yeah, we know where we go, said Hagrid. Harry had never been to London before. Although Hagrid seemed to know where he was going, he obviously not used to getting there in an ordinary way. He stuck in the ticket barrier of the underground and completely knowingly that the seats were small and the train too slow. I don't know muggles manage without magic, he said as he climbed a broken down escalator that led up to a bustling road lined with shops. Hagrid was so huge, he parted the crowd easily. All Hagrid had to do was keep close behind him. The past book shops and music stores, hamburger restaurants and chimneys, but nowhere that looked as if it could tell you could sell you a magic wand. This was just miles beneath them. Were they really shops that sold books and broomsticks? Might this not all be the hero that the Druidly had cooked up? If Harry hadn't known that the Druidly had no sense of humor, he might have thought so yet. Somehow, even though everything Hagrid had told him so far was unbelievable, Harry couldn't help trusting him. That is it, said Hagrid, coming to a halt. The leaky cauldron, it's a famous it's a famous place. It was a tiny, grubby-looking pub. If Hagrid hadn't pointed it out, Harry wouldn't have noticed it was there. The people hurrying by didn't glance at it. The eyes slid from the book shop on one side to the record shop on the other, as if they couldn't see the leaky cauldron. In fact, Harry had the most particular thing that he and Hagrid could, that only he and Hagrid could see. Before he could measure it, Hagrid steered him aside for a famous place. It was very dark and shabby. A few old women were sitting in the corner drinking tiny glasses of sherry. And one of them was smoking a long pipe. A little man in a top hat talking to the old butler, who was quite bold and looked like a toothless walnut. The low buzz of the chatter stopped when they walked in. Everyone seemed to know Hagrid. They waved and smiled. The mountain reached for a glass, saying, "The usual Hagrid, Ken Tom, I'm on Hogwarts business," said Hagrid, clapping his great hand on Harry's shoulder and making Harry's knee buckle. "Great Lord," said the butler, appearing at Harry. Can this be?" The leaky cauldron had suddenly gone completely still and silent. "Bless my soul," whispered the old butler. "Harry Potter, what an honor!" He hurried from behind the bar, brushed toward Harry, and seized his head, tears in his eyes. "Welcome back, Mr. Potter. Welcome back." Harry didn't know what to say. Everybody was looking at him. The old woman with the pipe was puffing on it. Really, it had gone out. Hagrid was beaming. Then there was a great slapping of chairs, and the next moment, Harry found himself shaking hands with everyone in leaky cauldron. Doors Crockford, Mr. Potter, I can't believe I'm meeting you at last. So proud, Mr. Potter. I'm just so proud. I always wanted to shake your hand. I'm all aflutter, delighted Mr. Potter. Delighted Mr. Potter. Just can't tell you. Diggle the name. Louise Diggle. I've seen you before, said Harry. I Diggle talked out. You bowed me in one shot.
Chloe, is it fine if maybe someone else reads?
Sure.
All right, does anybody else want to read? You can raise your hand or unmute and just start reading. From the top of page 43, he remembers. Oh yeah, Andy, you want to read?
Can I read now?
Yeah, just from the top of this page.
"He remembers," cried Dodges, looking around at everyone. Did you hear that? He remembers me. Harry shook head again. Doris Crockford kept coming back for more. A pale young man made his way forward, very nervously. One of his eyes was twitching. "Professor Quirrell," said Hagrid. "Harry, Professor Quirrell will be one of your teachers at Hogwarts." "Paul Potter," stammered Professor Quirrell, grasping Harry's hand. "Can't tell you how pleased I am to meet you." "What sort of magic do you teach?" "Professor Quirrell, defense against the dark art." Mother, Professor Quirrell, as though he'd rather not think about it. Not that you need it, Potter. He laughed nervously. You'll be getting all your equipment, I suppose. I've got to pick up a new book on vampires myself. He looked terrified at the very start. But the other wouldn't let Professor Quirrell keep Harry to himself. It took almost 10 minutes to get away from them all. At last, Hagrid managed to make himself heard over the babble. Must get on. Lots turbo. Bye. Come on, Harry. Doris Crockfoot shook Harry's hand one last time, and Hagrid led them through the bar and out into a small walled country yard, where there was nothing but a trash can and a few weeds. Hagrid grinned at Harry. Told ya, didn't I? Told ya you was famous. Even Professor Quirrell was troubling me, yeah. Mind you, he's usually trembling. Is he all nervous? Oh yeah, poor Brock. Brilliant mind. He was fine while he was studying out a book, but then he took a year off to get some first-hand experience. They said he met vampire in the Black Forest, and there was a nasty bit of trouble with a head. Never been the same since. Scared of the student, scared of his object now. Where's my umbrella? Vampire's head. Harry's head was swimming. Hagrid, meanwhile, was counting bricks in the wall above the trash can. 3 up, 2 across, he muttered. Right, stand back, Henry. He tapped the wall 3 times with the point of his umbrella. The brick he had touched quivered. A rug in the middle, a small hole appeared.
All right. Thank you for reading that page. Does anybody else want to read? You can just raise your hand or start reading. Or I can read this last page if you guys want. Okay, I guess I'll read this last page. A small hole appeared. It grew wider and wider. A second later, they were facing an archway large enough for Hagrid, even for Hagrid, an archway onto a cobbled street that twisted and turned out of sight. Welcome, said Hagrid, to Diagon Alley. He grinned at Harry's amazement. They stepped through the archway. Harry looked quickly over his shoulder and saw the archway shrink instantly back into a solid wall. The sun shone brightly on a stack of cauldrons outside the nearest shop. Cauldrons, all sizes, copper, brass, pewter, silver, self-stirring, collapsible, said a sign hanging over them. Yeah, you'll be needing one, said Hagrid, but we gotta get your money first. Harry wished he had about 8 more eyes. His head turned in every direction as they walked up the street, trying to look at everything at once. The shops, the things outside them, the people doing their shopping. A plump woman outside an apothecary was shaking her head as they passed, saying, Dragon liver, 17 sickles an ounce. They're mad. A low, soft hooting came from a dark shop with a sign saying, Eliope's Owl Emporium. Tawny, Screech, Barn, Brown, and Snowy. Several boys of about Harry's age had their noses pressed against a window with broomsticks in it. Look, Harry heard one of them say, The Nimbus 2000, fastest ever. There were shops selling robes, shops selling telescopes, and strange silver instruments Harry had never seen before. Windows stacked with barrels of bat spleens and eel's eyes, tottering piles of spell books, quills, and rolls of parchment, potion bottles, globes of the moon. Gringotts, said Hagrid. They had reached a snowy white building that towered over the other little shops. Standing beside its burnished bronze doors, wearing a uniform of scarlet and gold, was, "Yeah, that's a goblin," said Hagrid quietly as they walked up the white stone steps toward him. The goblin was about a head shorter than Harry. He had a swarthy, clever face, a pointed beard, and Harry noticed very long fingers and feet. He bowed as they walked inside. Now they were facing a second pair of doors, silver this time, with words engraved upon them. "Enter, stranger, but take heed of what awaits the sin of greed. For those who take, but do not earn, must pay most dearly in their turn. So if you seek beneath our floors a treasure that was never yours, thief, you have been warned, beware of finding more than treasure there. Like I said, you'd be mad to try and rob it," said Hagrid.